I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is a sad clown.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha Pack, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom. Yo, Plague here, bringing you some different style of content. This is a half marathon where we recorded some content with Cataracts, Pantyhose, Chucky, and Sven. You will hear the marching of men through the wilderness as we talk about purpose and identity. We get vulnerable and we get real. Hope you enjoy it.
We have 5 core principles. We're always outdoors. We're always led in a rotating fashion. We're open to all men. We're always free, and we enter a circle of trust.
Yeah, buddy.
Today we're going to leave no man behind and leave no man where he found him. I'm not a professional, clearly. We'll modify as necessary. Let's mosey.
All right, yeah. Love it.
I'm going to grab my skateboard and my bungee cord. I promise I'll only attach during the episode.
To just surrender control. Like, submit my will to a power higher than myself. And I don't know, it's different for everybody, but I think there's a certain level of people also don't spend enough time thinking about who they want to be. And so then you don't factor that into the decisions you make today. And so then you get stuck in this rut of like, I just do the same stuff every day, but I have no clue where I'm going, and I'm not making decisions based on the future version of myself I want to be.
So, the part of getting vulnerable, I'll just jump in here. Because that actually is exactly what I wanted to talk about, because, you know, it's interesting what F3 has done for me in terms of, you know, and I feel robbed because it got me so late in life, but
that's why we say hate to all those young guys.
I've got me so, it's got, you know, throughout my life, I've gotten a lot off of, and all credit to my parents, like my work ethic, the grind, always kind of like being like a cat. I can figure it out, land on my feet. But to that extent, like, I've always felt like, I mean, from an adolescent to really up until, you know, probably 5-6 years ago, or 9 years ago when I started to have kids, that like, I felt like it didn't have an identity. And so I went through some phases where, oh fuck, I grew my hair out and wore tie-dyes, and I smoked a little pot, but like, nothing crazy, but I was seriously on the path of like what you just said. Like I felt like I had no direction, and I felt like I was literally like a cotton seed just flying around. If this group liked me, I would morph into them. If this group liked me, I'd morph into them. And so I was really struggling with the, you know, where the hell do I belong? And as a child, not even child, like as a young adult, that's tough, right? Because you have friends that have a calling, like Cataracts, going into, you know, optometry, or other like professions that are specialized and people know what they want to do. And I always felt like, God dang it, I don't know what I want to do, you know? And I still feel a little bit of that. But this was the first time in my life that I felt like I aligned with the group and the group aligned with me, and it wasn't like a one-directional process. And, you know, again, you have your family, you have your kids, and that's kind of set that aside, but the true partnership with friends in life, right? Look at this, how metaphorical is that? Forking your
Love that.
And so it's just I'm glad you touched on that, because that was just such a struggle for me in my life. And, you know, I don't know what it looks like to you guys on the outside, I seem pretty confident, kind of know what I'm doing, but like, man, guys, I fumbled around for a good portion of my life trying to find that purpose.
Yeah, everybody has that. You know, we get good at putting on what our thing is.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the beauties of F3. Like, right, you can, right now you can have that. There's not many people that you tell that story to, Chuck. Yeah,
There's nobody, I've never told that story to anybody.
And I think probably the reality is we all sort of have a story similar. And that might even be the man's story, right? It might be a man's story for the vast majority of us.
Yeah.
Well, the flip side of that, Chucky, I went to medical school, and the whole time I thought I was too regimented, and I wanted to be free, and I wanted to go fuck off on a weekend, but I couldn't. And so
you felt trapped.
Yes.
Versus just a different angle.
And then I got a job where everybody around me is 65. Talk about isolation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say one of the things that's been fascinating to me is so you spend all this time early on in life doing this thing that's really a false identity.
It's true.
When you figure it out, you don't know who you are.
You don't know who you are.
So,
and you talk about going to the end of yourself, and like I don't know if I've like done that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I spent a long time in the ether.
Yep. Well, so I did a values exercise with Firewalker. Really simple, but at the time, I needed to define my ideal self. Otherwise, I was going to keep making really bad choices.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, who do I want to be? What are the values I need to guide my decisions to get me there? And but I struggled with like I got a ton of friends that are still using.
Yeah.
I got a buddy who's been in and out of rehab 3 or 4 times, and he claims he doesn't have a problem.
Yeah.
And so you have to like, I can't go to resentment, right? Resentment leads to anger.
Right.
But I also can't be around this person.
Right. Because of your own health.
Right. And so that F3 has kind of turned into that spiritual community.
Yeah, you mentioned that the other day. I thought that was really telling.
Yeah. It's just everybody needs a place to be accepted for who they are. But what's been a challenge for me is I don't know who I am, so I'm just going to be who I think I am and rely on my buddies to correct me if what I'm doing doesn't align.
And that is so interesting because, and I don't know, I'll speak for myself, but maybe others too, but on the outside looking in, dude, you're like, had I not known your story, you're like, on the outside, you're like, I mean, honestly, not knowing that story, you're 100% put together. This guy's got a direction, he's got a great family, he's got a great, network, like super outgoing. Like when I first started F3, you were like one of the first guys that just came up to me and started chatting me up. Fuck, I think you offered me a job at that point.
I did, yeah.
And I'm like, what is this place? Who are these people? And
that sounds anonymous.
Yeah. And so anyways, it's interesting how we can bury that lack of self-understanding. But everyone else on the outside looking in is like, boy, this guy's got his shit together.
Yeah.
Which probably, for me, it's like, well, I can't be that far off because I'm a functioning, non-directional person, right? That finds purpose in things but doesn't feel like I have a true purpose yet. So, anyway, sorry. That's kind of a little bit of the under the covers for me, guys.
Yeah, I struggle today with what the heck am I even good at sometimes. And that might be why I run. Yeah, because I can do that. Like I can for sure go out and I can run.
Well, that's interesting because I listened to the Chucky's podcast.
Yeah.
And he talked about that. Like he had that addictive personality, still does. And he's like, I turned that from the drinking at night, those 2 hours, and took that towards sleeping, and then busted my ass in the morning.
Yep.
And I got addicted to the workouts. And so, that concept of addiction isn't like, shouldn't always be looked at in a negative light.
Right.
It can be a positive force in your life.
Yep. Well, some of it too is, Kelly McGonigal has a book called Willpower. And she talks about how you can train your brain to have more willpower by exercising it more often. But she also talks about how your willpower is a muscle, and so the more decisions you're making in a day, the less kind of mental power you have. And I think, for me, it's like, what decisions am I wasting time making that get me to this spot where temptation is easier to give into? Like, how do I eliminate those decisions? So I just started wearing shorts to work every day.
No underwear.
Hey, bird dogs, man.
I mean, you are the bird dog.
Oh, gee. Name change.
Mid-year review.
But I think purpose, too, is maybe a little... So...
It's a little what?
It's a little bit more fluid than we'd like it to be. Like, I think we want God to say, here's your purpose. Do this every day, and you'll meet your purpose. But
you want a lane to follow.
I think God is saying, at least to me, your purpose is follow me and glorify me in whatever I'm calling you to do.
Right.
So maybe that's, hey, you really are feeling pressure from work, but that meeting's not till 8, and this guy right here needs someone to listen to him at coffee till 7:15.
Right.
Stay.
Right.
Stay. You don't need to log into work 30 minutes early and answer 5 additional emails.
Yeah.
And but we give into that because, and they talk about this, but with the concentrica, you gravitate towards the thing you have, like, you can get immediate feedback from.
Right.
So,
or maybe the thing you're the best at.
Well,
because I
am pretty good at email. My inbox is at 3 right now.
You have OCD.
But it is kind of and there's some addictive stuff to it too, because there's some dopamine that's released, right? When you complete a task and you get positive feedback from the world, there's dopamine. And that's
and it's actually interesting because the reason I said it's because what I'm good at. So like I'll recall a site or a queue that Pantyhose had last fall, and he had his phone. He's like, his phone, like when I get home, it goes on the fridge. And like for the longest time, guys, and I'm a victim of that. Get caught up in all the shit that's around me, and here I am. I've got everything in front of me that matters.
Yeah.
Right? My children, my wife, God, like it's all right there. And I choose to read some fucking bullshit email or some stupid COVID article. Or whatever made up shit the world wants to present as distraction for me. And in reality, I should be right there in the moment.
The best reset we had in our house was losing power for 40 hours.
Talk about that. That was
so it unplugged our kids.
Yeah.
And we didn't realize, we have some restrictions on their timing.
Yeah.
But we didn't realize that in the evenings, when we kind of sit down and watch the news or something, they go plugged into their screens. And so without that for 40 hours, they were coming down and we were interacting more as a family.
That's awesome.
And all of a sudden, I got out Connect 4 and Battleship. Games with my kids. I can't remember the last time I'd even played it with my youngest son. That was kind of embarrassing to admit.
Yeah.
But it happened.
That's cool. So Chucky, what do you think is where are you at now? I
think I'm in a good place, man. Not from a I've got it figured out perspective. I'm in a good place from I'm recognizing like where I'm deficient, where I'm short.
Sure.
So I think like I'm not going to use the excuse, but I will say 100% work in progress.
Yeah.
But now I'm recognizing what's important and what's not. And I'm making conscious steps to try to focus my time and energy with my children and my wife and God and the things that are most important, right? And try to eliminate distractions. Have I done all those things? Absolutely not. I'm so much so much trying to do that.
Well, one of the things that I think, so I say, come to F3, come back, lean in, but I guess, what I think I've seen you do, and would love your perspective, is what does leaning in look like? I mean, I think, just it could be as simple as like, as a new guy, you initiate conversation with some of the other guys. Or, I don't know, what are your thoughts?
So leaning in for me is a combination of things, and I think I'm naturally extroverted, but get me in a group of new people, and I quickly become introverted.
Yeah.
When I start to get to know people, I think you guys have probably seen it, then I evolve, and I start to get more comfortable, and then I can talk shit, and I can have fun, and like that's my comfort zone, is like having fun and really enjoying what we're doing with those people, right?
Yeah.
And so I think like leaning in for me was, okay, I got these guys, I know a couple, man, I really want to start, like, once you start drinking the Kool-Aid, and I don't mean it in a negative way, like truly the F3 goodness, once you start like believing that and you're bought in, then it's like you want more. And then you start, reaching out to more guys and start to having more conversations, and then all of a sudden there's, Birdman is brought to tears at a COT for whatever's on his mind that day. And that shit is powerful, man. I don't care who you are, how macho you are, but to be there when another guy is so touched by something happened in his life, and we can share that with him.
I think that's what's powerful about it too, is like, these are guys that are professionals, they've got great, seemingly, right, on the surface.
Seemingly.
Right? Everybody's put together. But it just uncovers the belly of, we all have these things that we battle that most people don't know about.
Yes.
And we don't know how to talk about it.
Yes.
Or have anybody to talk about it with.
Most of the time, kids, boys are instructed not to talk about it.
Right.
From early on.
And so leaning in then, like, from that perspective, like, then that actually builds my confidence, right? Because then I'm like, back to my earlier point in my conversation of sort of being kind of lost, right? Listless in life, at least from a key purpose. And like, it helps me not to see that other people are struggling, but it helps me to know that, like, there are people who feel way more put together than me that are still struggling with stuff. And then what that does for me, and so leaning in is a form of vulnerability for me. This is my outlet to talk about things that are on my mind, and know that guys are going to listen, and guys are going to try to help me.
Yeah.
And so leaning in is getting more of that feedback. And then, obviously, I love the fitness part, because that's how I can get to the point where I can lean. I can go on a pre-run, which before you guys used to drag me around when I was dying. I couldn't have had this conversation. And but those to me, I've said this before, but the pre-runs are almost more valuable to me than the beatdowns.
Yeah.
And it's for this.
Yeah, that's true.
I would agree with you.
Chucky, it's interesting. When I first started, I still don't remember the first time we were pre-running together. But you cursed like a sailor.
Yeah.
But you don't anymore.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I honestly think it's like, and again, it's like this like concept of a little bit of like, okay, I want to shadow these guys that I look up to, these guys that are doing great in their community, these guys that are successful, these guys that are great family men. They don't do that as much, but they do it.
We do it for purpose.
And I've always had a little bit of a sailor mouth,
So Chuck,
always.
I would say be yourself.
Yeah.
If you speak like a sailor,
be a sailor.
why don't you?
No, and here's why. Because there's a respect factor.
Respect. Gotcha. All right.
Just turn out to you an eye patch.
Yeah. So it's not like I want to sail like a sailor. That's not the person I want to be.
All right.
Now I do it because of habit, because of people that I ran around with my whole life, right? Swearing was a thing, and now with kids, especially, and in this group, if you're the only guy that's like blasting F-bombs and everyone's kind of looking at you like, huh? Then it's a little bit, counter to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. What about leading a workout? Has that helped you kind of lean in, you feel like? Or?
But yeah, so I remember my first time, and it was definitely, and I lead a lot of big groups, no problem speaking in front of them, but man, that first one, I had the script, I had everything laid out, and like, I feel like I blacked out, I didn't remember anything, I don't even have didn't know what the heck I was doing, and, but it's empowering in a way too, because why, I asked myself, why am I nervous?
Yeah.
Why is this a big deal to me? This is like 5 guys. Because I respect them all. And because I know that their opinion matters to me.
Yeah.
And what they think about me matters, and what I'm doing and how it's impactful matters, what my message matters, right? So when it's different, I feel like in corporate America, you talk and people placate. Yeah. But they don't listen, they don't understand, they don't care about you as a person.
Right.
And this group, they care about you as a person. And they want good things for you. And that's why it's so important, why I was so nervous. But then in terms of leaning in, now it's like a source of strength, right? I got something to say and I want everybody to hear it.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go get on a cue. The workout is you can get the workout anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I started with the workouts. Right now I'm like I said, those are the secondary now. Now it's about the conversations, the relationships. The advice.
Yo, we covered a lot of ground there, physically and emotionally, spiritually, mentally, with the topics that we covered. I do want to give a shout out to the guys for being open to recording a cast while out on the run. And who knows, maybe this won't be the last episode of The Gloom out on the run. This has been Brandon Fleehardy, 35, The Plague. Peace out.